You're in the kitchen preparing dinner when it starts. That whining sound, high-pitched and persistent, like a record stuck on repeat. Your child wants something, anything, and the tone climbs higher with each passing second. You feel your shoulders tense, your jaw clench. You've tried reasoning, you've tried ignoring, you've tried everything the parenting books suggested. But here you are again, feeling that familiar mix of love and exhaustion, wondering why something so small can drain so much energy from your day. Every parent knows this moment. It's not about the snack they're demanding or the toy they can't have right now. It's about that sound that seems designed by nature to pierce through every defense mechanism you've built. And in 60 seconds or less, there's a way to shift this entirely, using a principle so counterintuitive that most modern parents never discover it, yet so ancient that it's been passed down through generations in certain European households, particularly in German-speaking regions where the philosophy of child-rearing emphasizes something we've almost forgotten in our hurried world. The power of intentional stillness combined with strategic acknowledgement. This isn't about distraction. It's not about giving in or punishing. It's about understanding what whining actually is at its neurological core and meeting it exactly where it needs to be met. Here's what most parents don't realize about whining. When your child shifts into that particular vocal pattern, they're not trying to annoy you, even though it feels that way. They're stuck in a dysregulated state where their nervous system has activated a distress signal, but they lack the neurological maturity to shift out of it on their own. The prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for emotional regulation and rational thought, is still developing throughout childhood. When a child whines, their amygdala has taken over, signaling to their system that something is wrong, but they don't have the tools yet to articulate what or why. The whining becomes a loop, feeding itself, because the more they whine, the more their nervous system believes the distress is real and justified. Meanwhile, the parent's natural response is often to either dismiss it with phrases like, "use your normal voice," or to escalate in frustration, both of which actually intensify the child's dysregulation. We're essentially asking a flooded nervous system to self-regulate while simultaneously adding more stress to it. This is why traditional approaches often fail. We're trying to teach a drowning person to swim by explaining technique from the shore. What the German tradition understood, passed through generations of practical wisdom, is that you have to first throw the rope, then teach the swimming. You have to regulate before you can educate. This principle shows up in old European approaches to child-rearing that emphasize the adult's composure as the primary tool of influence. Not authority through dominance, but authority through grounded presence. The parent becomes the child's external nervous system regulator, the calm that their internal system is seeking but cannot generate alone. The method itself is deceptively simple, which is precisely why it works. When the whining begins, most parents instinctively move away, both physically and emotionally. We create distance because the sound is aversive to our own nervous systems. But the German approach suggests the opposite. Move closer, but not with urgency. Drop your physical height to the child's eye level. This isn't about towering over them or bending down in exasperation. It's a deliberate choice to enter their physical and emotional space with intention. Then comes the part that feels wrong to every fiber of modern parenting instinct. You match their energy level without matching their distress. This means you acknowledge their state with a neutral, almost monotone reflection. Not sarcastic, not dismissive, but factual. If they're whining about wanting a cookie, you say in a calm, steady voice, "You want a cookie right now and you're upset you can't have it." That's it. No buts, no explanations yet, no problem solving. Just pure acknowledgement of their internal experience. The tone is crucial here. You're not excited, not animated, not trying to cheer them out of it. You're a mirror that reflects without amplification. What happens in those first 15 to 20 seconds is remarkable. The child's brain registers that their distress has been witnessed. Not dismissed, not escalated, but seen. This alone begins to deactivate the amygdala's alarm system. The whining often continues, but you'll notice a slight shift, a microsecond of pause where they're processing whether this interaction is going to follow the usual pattern. This is where most parents rush in with solutions or lectures. Instead, you wait. You maintain your physical proximity, your eye level, and your calm presence. After another 10 seconds, you offer a simple observation, "That feels really hard right now." Again, no fixing, no teaching. Just validation without rescue. By the 40th second, something shifts in the room. The child's breathing pattern changes slightly. The whine loses some of its intensity. Their eyes might meet yours instead of looking past you. This is the nervous system beginning to co-regulate with yours. Your calm is literally lending them the neurological scaffolding they cannot yet build on their own. Then, and only then, around the 50 to 60 second mark, you offer the bridge back to regulation. When you're ready to use your regular voice, "I can help you with this." Not a command, not a correction. An invitation with a clear boundary. You're showing them the exit from the loop they're stuck in, but you're not dragging them through it. Most children will take another breath, sometimes a shaky one, and the tone will shift. Not always to perfect calm, but to something workable, something that's no longer stuck in that high-pitched distress frequency. The science behind why this works so efficiently comes down to how the human nervous system seeks regulation through connection. Polyvagal theory, developed by neuroscientist Stephen Porges, explains that we have neural pathways specifically designed to detect safety or threat in our environment through social cues. The child's ventral vagal system, which governs calm and social engagement, is looking for signals from the adult that the situation is safe enough to downregulate. When a parent responds to whining with frustration or dismissal, it signals threat, keeping the child stuck in sympathetic arousal or even pushing them into dorsal vagal shutdown, which looks like collapse or zoning out. But when the parent approaches with calm acknowledgement, maintaining connection without transmitting stress, it signals safety. The child's nervous system receives the message: this adult is not overwhelmed by my distress, therefore my distress might not be as catastrophic as it feels. This allows the polyvagal brake to engage, slowing the heart rate, deepening the breath, and bringing the prefrontal cortex back online. The German emphasis on this approach wasn't accidental. In regions where this philosophy developed, there was a cultural understanding that childhood emotions are legitimate but that children are apprentices in regulation, not masters. The adult's job isn't to eliminate the emotion or fix the problem instantly, but to teach the child, through repeated experience, what regulation feels like in the body. Every time you respond to whining with grounded presence rather than reaction, you're building neural pathways in your child's developing brain. You're creating a template that says, discomfort is temporary, connection is available, and I have the capacity to return to calm. This is dramatically different from the message sent when we respond with, stop that noise, or, I'm not listening until you talk normally, which teaches the child that their distress makes them unworthy of connection precisely when they need it most. The beauty of the 60-second approach is that it requires almost nothing from you except awareness and breath. You don't need special tools, you don't need to have read 12 parenting books, and you don't need to be perfect at emotional regulation yourself. You just need to remember 3 elements: proximity, acknowledgement, and pause. Move closer when instinct says move away. Acknowledge what is happening without trying to immediately change it. Pause before jumping to solutions, allowing the child's nervous system the time it needs to recognize that you're not adding stress to the situation. What makes this so powerful over time is the pattern recognition it builds. Children are remarkably attuned to patterns. After you've implemented this approach consistently for even just a week, most children begin to recognize the sequence. They start to anticipate that when they're in distress, proximity and calm acknowledgement will follow, not punishment or dismissal. This anticipation itself becomes regulating. Their nervous system learns to wait for your co-regulation rather than escalating to get it. The whining episodes become shorter, less frequent, and less intense because the child is building their own internal capacity to manage discomfort. They're borrowing your calm enough times that they start to internalize it as their own skill. This is how emotional regulation is actually taught, not through lectures or consequences, but through embodied, repeated experience of being met in distress with groundedness. One of the most profound shifts parents report after using this method is not just the change in their child, but the change in themselves. There's something deeply settling about having a concrete, effective response to one of parenting's most grating challenges. The whining doesn't trigger the same helplessness or rage because you know exactly what to do with it. You have a map. And in having that map, you discover your own capacity to remain present with discomfort, both your child's and your own. This is where the method reveals its deeper wisdom. It's not really about stopping the whining. It's about teaching both parent and child that distress doesn't have to lead to disconnection, that emotions can be big without being destructive, and that the most powerful tool in your parenting arsenal isn't discipline or rewards or clever distractions. It's your regulated nervous system offered as a resource to a child whose system is still learning how to find its way back to baseline. The German tradition understood something we've lost in the era of quick fixes and 5-minute parenting hacks. Transformation happens in the space between stimulus and response, in the 60 seconds where you choose presence over reaction, acknowledgement over correction, and breath over frustration. The cultural wisdom embedded in this approach speaks to a larger truth about how children learn to navigate the world. In traditional German pedagogy, there's a concept called Erziehung, which doesn't translate cleanly to English but encompasses both education and upbringing, the idea that formation of character happens through countless small interactions, not through grand speeches or dramatic interventions. When you meet your child's whining with the 60-second protocol, you're engaged in Erziehung. You're teaching them that their emotional state matters but doesn't control the household, that connection is always available but manipulation is futile, that you are strong enough to hold space for their distress without being consumed by it. These lessons embed themselves at a level far deeper than conscious understanding. They become the foundation of secure attachment, the sense that no matter how dysregulated I become, my parent remains my safe harbor. This security allows children to take risks, explore boundaries, and develop autonomy because they know they have a stable base to return to. The whining itself becomes less necessary as a communication tool because the child trusts that their needs and feelings will be acknowledged without them having to escalate to get attention. Consider what happens in the alternative scenario that plays out in thousands of homes every day. The child whines, the parent snaps or ignores, the child whines louder, the parent eventually either gives in out of exhaustion or explodes in frustration, and everyone ends up feeling terrible. The child learns that persistence in distress eventually works or that their emotions make them bad. The parent feels guilty for losing their temper or weak for caving in. Nobody wins. The relationship suffers tiny tears that accumulate over time. The child's nervous system learns that the world is either unpredictable in its responses or that overwhelming others with intensity is the path to getting needs met. Neither lesson serves them well as they grow. The 60-second method interrupts this cycle entirely. It offers a third way that honors both the child's experience and the parent's need for peace, that teaches regulation through experience rather than through enforcement, and that transforms one of parenting's most annoying challenges into an opportunity for genuine connection and skill building. This is the kind of wisdom that doesn't make headlines or go viral with flashy promises, but it changes the daily texture of life in a household, 1 minute, 1 interaction at a time. The ripple effects extend beyond the immediate moment of whining. Children who regularly experience this kind of attuned, regulating response from their caregivers develop stronger executive function skills, better emotional literacy, and more resilience in the face of frustration. They learn to tolerate discomfort because they've experienced that discomfort doesn't equal abandonment. They develop the capacity to identify and name their emotions because those emotions have been witnessed and validated rather than shut down. They become the kind of people who can sit with complexity, who don't need to immediately discharge every uncomfortable feeling, who can pause between impulse and action. These are the capacities that predict success in relationships, work, and life far more accurately than academic achievement or behavioral compliance. And they're built in 60-second increments, in kitchen doorways and living room floors, when a parent chooses to kneel down, make eye contact, and say simply, "I see you, I'm here, and this will pass." That's the real power of this method. It's not a trick to make your life easier, though it does. It's a practice that builds the architecture of a healthy emotional life, one regulated moment at a time. There's something revolutionary in the simplicity of it, in the radical act of slowing down when every instinct screams to speed up or shut down. We live in a culture that treats children's emotions as problems to be solved, inconveniences to be managed, obstacles between us and the next item on the to-do list. The German approach embedded in this 60-second method suggests otherwise. It proposes that your child's dysregulation is not a disruption of the important work of parenting. It is the important work of parenting. That every moment of whining is an invitation to practice the single most important skill you can teach, the ability to return to calm in the presence of another person. This is what secure attachment looks like in action. Not perfection, not endless patience, not never feeling frustrated. Just the commitment to choose connection over convenience, to offer your presence as a tool, to remember that your child's nervous system is still under construction and you're the foreman. When you see it this way, the whining becomes less of an assault and more of a signal, less of a punishment and more of an opportunity. Not an opportunity you'll always feel grateful for, but one that matters nonetheless. Your child doesn't need you to never feel annoyed by whining. They need you to know what to do with it when it happens. They need you to have practiced enough times that your body knows the moves even when your mind is tired. Drop to their level, acknowledge what they're experiencing, wait in calm proximity, and offer the bridge back when they're ready. 60 seconds of intention instead of 10 minutes of escalation. 60 seconds of teaching their nervous system what safe regulation feels like instead of teaching them that their distress makes them unlovable. This is how we raise children who grow into adults that can handle stress without falling apart, who can be in relationship without constantly demanding or withdrawing, who know in their bones that they are worthy of care even in their most dysregulated moments. And it starts with the choice to see whining not as something to eliminate as quickly as possible, but as a developmental stage to move through with intention, 1 minute at a time. The method is simple because the truth is simple. Children learn regulation through repeated experience of being regulated by someone who loves them enough to stay present through the discomfort. Everything else is commentary.